to me, and you're going to love what you're about to hear, because this session, more than any session, is going to be the most fun you've ever had saving the nation. So I want to introduce myself. I'm Cynthia Davis, and many of you may know me, but for those who don't, I spent 8 years in the Missouri State Legislature, but before that, I just was a nice person, a John Q. average, and I cared about my community, got involved. My husband and I opened a business in O'Fallon, Back to Basics Christian Bookstore, and we weren't open very long before the city was making some adverse decisions that would negatively affect our businesses. So that began the O'Fallon Business Association, and I went just out of curiosity. I said, what do you want me to do? And they said, well, just be the chairman of the legislative committee. And I'm like, I don't even know what a legislative committee is. What does that mean? And they said, no problem. All you have to do is go to all the Board of Aldermen meetings and report back to us every week on what they're doing to ruin our lives next. So I thought, I can do that, and I did. And I went for a solid year to every Board of Aldermen meeting and gave my report one week, and I said, ultimately, folks, we cannot change city government until we change the people in those seats. And that's when somebody from across the room said, well, then why don't you run? And I thought, why don't I run? So I did. I ran, and I won 5 times. And after that, I realized the real problem is state government. So I ran for state government and won 4 times. In Missouri, we have term limits. Are you from Missouri? Everybody here from Missouri? Anybody know? Okay. So we have term limits, which means at the end of 8 years, you have to go bless the world somewhere else. So that's how it works, and that's why I know a lot of people ask, why are you no longer in office? And it's because that's how it works in this state. But now that you know a little bit of who I am, I want to know who you are. Do we have any Democrats in the room? See, none? Okay, no Democrat's going to win a prize then. Do we have any Republicans in the room? You? Any Libertarians in the room? Not seeing that either. And we're pretty, okay, then we're going to launch into, now that you know me, I know you, everybody's happy. So, a lot of people have not really studied government and what its true purpose is. And nothing like being in government to help you delve deeply into what it should and should not do. So the best way to explain it is through my boxes. And for those of you who've seen this before, you'll enjoy it again. And those who've never seen it, there's no better way to explain it. So here goes. These are the boxes. I know, you're curious. What is in that first box? It's a figurine of a person, individual. This is individual government. Self-government is government at its most local form. And we all are supposed to self-govern. That means everybody in this room got up and got dressed. You brushed your hair, brushed your teeth. You look nice, by the way. This is a fine-looking audience. So, that is you determining, I'm going to come to Covenant America. I'm going to do something positive. And we all do self-govern when we make those decisions. But if people cannot handle their own decisions, like some people have serious problems mentally or physically, then this box represents your family. And it is your duty of your family to take care of you. So we put the individual in the family box. And the family is a form of government as well. The family demands accountability. Family will want their children to come home and go to bed at a certain hour at night. Family will ask you why you're walking out of the house dressed in that short skirt or whatever. Family will ask you, did you brush your teeth? And other questions that are too embarrassing to say on camera. Nevertheless, family is there when individual cannot function totally and fully. If family can't function, the next box is your church. Church is great, and it is a form of government as well. Now, not everybody goes to church, but there's another level of accountability. So if family needs help, gets help from church. Church is there to help parents, to equip people to be godly, to be strong, to make a difference in the world, to make their voice heard, and to be a moral force. Now, this last box is not the last box. Ha! You thought it was the last box. But this one is community, because many churches make up community. Many groups, people from all walks of life. We are today right here a community. We are it. We love each other, care about each other, support one goal, and right now it's saving America. The fact that we have a common goal of saving America makes us a community. But we're not a governmental entity. We're just people who've come together with shared values. The last box. It's big, it's ugly, it's oversized. It is government. You see what we're doing? Worse than that, it says here, made in China. Why is it such an ugly box and the others were so pretty? Because it's a vending machine. It gives like a vending machine. Have you ever watched anybody put money in a vending machine and when it vends their candy bar, have them say, "Oh, thank you, vending machine"? No. No, to the contrary, if they don't get their candy bar out, they will usually pound and tip and use bad language and all kinds of things. So people receive from government without gratitude, and government gives without accountability. Now, if somebody in your family has a problem, a moral problem, families can ask, why are you drinking every night? Why do you have all those illegitimate children? Why do you use foul language? Why do you hang around with low-life people who are dragging you down? Those are important questions to ask. And that's what the human beings can do for each other. That's the human touch, and that's very important. Government doesn't do that. So those are your boxes. Now the family is really interesting. I wondered if I was going to have a PowerPoint presentation today. And you know the family is the secret weapon of our society, but I wasn't sure if we were going to have PowerPoint. And getting no answer, I decided I'm going to have to develop my own PowerPoint. So I would like 2 volunteers from the audience, 1 man and 1 woman. Please come up on the stage with me. Come on. I won't hurt you. Now, what we have here is a woman giving us a model. Thank you for being a model. Of what has happened to the family in America. And she is a model of a single mother. Now, Lori, you have to hold this up so they can see you. Now, pretend you're watching a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, stand down there so they can see you. So on my PowerPoint, we have a single mother, an unmarried mother with 2 children, and she's only making $26,000 a year, which is poverty level. And Lori has 2 children, which makes it really hard. And over here we have a gentleman who is an unmarried father. And one of his kids is particularly patriotic. It just so happens that his income, the average single unmarried man in America makes $40,000 a year. Now, the problem is the non-marriage. What happens if the two of them get married? Now, you hold one side and you hold the other side. If you can see. Can you sit down? Yeah, so I don't block you. Now, suddenly, an unmarried mother and a married father get married and their household income is $66,000 a year. I'm doing math for you folks. This is good math. This is based on rock-hard science. It's based on statistics. This is the average of America. We now have lifted both of them out of poverty. Okay, you can sit down and congratulations on your new family. So the poverty rate for married couples in America is between 5 and 6%, and that is consistent across the board. And that number stays steady regardless of economic factors. When the country goes up and down, the poverty rate is still about 5 to 6%. Now, when people are unmarried, then their poverty rate fluctuates wildly. And so, here are some numbers. I don't want you to think this is going to be a math class. But the federal government spends about 43% of the budget that are items that are not really the role of government. States spend about 62%. That's where all the money is going. So, now you have it in a nutshell. You got to see my PowerPoint. And that is part of where all this money is draining us. So let me go into education for a minute, because education is a big part of every government budget. Some of you have heard a lot about Common Core. Common Core is another name for the same flawed philosophy, which is school to work, no child left behind, race to the top. Name it anything you want, but it is bigger government taking control of how to teach the children in a manner that really is very expensive, no matter what you call it. So here's a question we have to ask ourselves in this country of how we're going to save our country. Is education getting us where we need to go? Because you're putting your children in an environment where they are being taught and in what was supposed to be a non-religious setting. However, atheism is a religion also. It's a religion that's hostile to all other religions because they're teaching children to be ashamed of themselves if they have faith in God. And there's an ethic when you walk in the school that that's not okay. Not okay to talk about it. Now, I want to tell you about this vision, if you can envision with me, or envisioning. What would you think if there were a mother who was taking her two children to see grandma, but grandma in this scenario lives out of state. So she can't drive them all the way to Michigan, so she's going to put them on an airplane. She gets in the cab to ride to the airport, and there's another individual in the cab, and she says to this stranger who she just met, "My kids need to fly to Michigan. Can you just get on the plane with them and make sure they get there safely?" Thank you for laughing, because that's essentially what we're doing. We're asking strangers who we do not know a lot about. They may be good, they may be bad. The children may never make it to Michigan. They may get molested in the bathroom on the way to Michigan. We don't know. The total stranger could turn out to be a nice gentleman who takes his job seriously. But the point is it worth the risk? Because when you ask strangers to infuse your child with their philosophy for 6 hours every day, we're taking a wild risk. I want to talk a minute about sex education, and the reason that's a topic I'm very familiar with is because while I was in the legislature, I was responsible for getting Planned Parenthood out of the public schools. And people wondered, why is it that that's a problem? Well, think about the word Planned Parenthood. And you can imagine they're trying to sexualize the children and make them all parents. Because it's a matter of time, if you're performing those activities, it's only a matter of time before you're going to need to come back to them and use other services. And so we try to at least begin somewhere with going to the root cause of the problem. Now, I would like to, this is kind of a fun, this is the fun part. I know you were wondering, when is it going to really get fun? But the point, this is what's going on with the government. Okay. All of you can see this is a colander. It has holes in it. This is government expenditures. We're spending a lot of government money, yours and mine. We're being forced to pay for an atheistic school program that's teaching our children that we came from monkeys and there is no God. And if you don't think they're teaching children that, you need to find out, because that's not helping their self-esteem. Now, we've got government funding, and I'm going to do a little trick for you now. Assistant. Thank you, assistant. Let's come over here. Would you just stand? No, put it on the table. Now, the water represents money. Money, money, money. And guess whose money it is? It's yours. This is your money, your hard-earned taxpayer dollars that was siphoned off of your paycheck, and it is going to the government. Now, what happens when you dump your taxpayer dollars into a government program? It's going right through. Now, I know you love hearing about political parties, because when we were asked to come and speak today, the person putting it on made a mention about they really aren't hip on all the political parties. So I'm going to explain political parties to you in a nutshell. This is the Republicans. Okay, they have a finite amount of money, and they recognize it, and yet the finite amount of money is going right through because we don't have the moral fiber to hold our society together. This is representative of a garden hose. This represents the Democrats. They believe there's an endless supply of money, and it will never run out. There's no reason to ever not have money for anything. Now, this represents the libertarians. That's it, folks. The libertarians don't believe that we need to strengthen government or have to do anything or even have government. And finally, can you hand me my colander? I needed a lot of assistance today. Folks, this is government, but this inside here represents the Constitution. And when you have the Constitution providing a parameter and a structure, we can pour the water in there, and it stays in there because it's there on a principled basis for a principled reason at a time, place, and manner prescribed by the people. So that is political parties in a nutshell. Hope you enjoyed that. Okay, thank you. Thank you, my lovely assistant. You did a great job, especially for an unmarried mother. Thank you for your help. Marvelous. You've got so many burdens. Did great. Okay. A lot of people are so fed up with the direction of the country and the way it's going. And where are we today? And how did it get so bad? How did we fall down this low? And especially after the November elections, a lot of people said, I'm done, I'm over, I'm finished. I tried politics and it didn't help, and so let me go live in a cave. But just because because you want nothing to do with politics doesn't mean politics wants nothing to do with you. Politics decides how you, your children, your grandchildren, and all Americans will live in the future. When it comes right down to it, politics can actually decide whether any of us live, period. So here's the real problem. You can't throw God out, and you can't have an immoral people and still have a culture. It never has worked. It doesn't work, and what we've got is going to be unsustainable. Now, let me ask you this. Think about our schools. When our schools, decades ago, I'm going back 30 decades, they were far more supportive of our values, and our schools were number one in the world. Now that we have tossed God aside and tried to be amoral in all of our teachings, our schools in America are in the 65th percentile of the world. So let me ask you, when you think about some of the evils we're trying to correct, especially with all the events we can expend our energy on, think about this. Abortion, is it a symptom or the root problem? It's a symptom. Pornography, homosexuality, divorce, babies born out of wedlock, funding problems, bankruptcy, decline in charity, increase in crime. All of these are not the problem. They are the symptom of another problem that began much deeper, and it's called godlessness. So the difference between our moral fiber and our country and how we got to be the greatest nation on earth was because we feared God and kept his commandments and had that ethic for other people as well. How many of you know the difference between liberty and freedom? Raise your hand. Now, I'd like to share with you because this will help you. You notice on the agenda even, there are a lot of people who appear to use those words interchangeably. But I want to give you a thought. Freedom is freedom. Liberty is freedom plus morality, plus virtue, plus a conscience. Now, if I have a dog, and my dog is a little rambunctious, he likes to run and play and have fun. If I turn him loose off his leash, I just gave my dog freedom. So is that good or bad? Because I live on a highway that has 36,000 cars a day that drive by. So if my dog uses his freedom to run into Highway K and gets killed, or cause an accident, and then I have to pay for the accident, then that was not a good use of his freedom. Let me give you another thought to think about. The criminals in New Orleans and in Detroit, and even Chicago, have more freedom than the criminals in an Amish community. And so we as a society are holding back evil by our own retention. There are not enough of us to correct everything. There are not enough police officers to correct everything. But when we have a critical mass of people who are good-hearted and know what they're doing and want to keep things well done and cultivate that attitude in others, we all go up together. So the old expression goes, when the tide comes in, all the boats float. And when the tide goes out, all the boats go down. So the morality of your neighbor does affect you, because even if you are not incurring additional burdens on your government, your neighbor may be. And you are a taxpayer, and you are funding the other indiscretions that are happening elsewhere. And gladly so. We're glad to pay for law enforcement if it's necessary. We're willing to, but if law enforcement costs us more money, then that is going to be borne by the innocent who didn't intend to have that be part of their agenda. So how do we raise up an army for freedom? And how do we have fun doing so? So I'd like to tell you it's easy to get discouraged when you look at where we're headed, because the indicators are not strong. If you look at our country today, and we could show a slide of what our country looked like 10 years ago, 15, 20, 30 years ago, you would see, okay, let's pretend I've got a PowerPoint. This is years ago, and this is us now. Years ago, now. Not going the right way. We've got more homosexuality. We've got more parents who are not even choosing to marry. I mean, think about this. 15, 20 years ago, the problem was the divorce rate. We don't have a problem with the divorce rate. It's pretty stable because fewer people are even bothering to get married. And if you want me to lay a few more statistics on you, children who come from intact families tend to do better than children from broken homes. You knew that. We all knew that. That's been a fact for years. But what you may not have known is children who come from divorced families do better than children who came from a family where their mother and father never married each other in the first place. And that's because children need security. And even if your parents now hate each other and had huge unhappiness together, the child knows that there was a time when my mom and dad loved each other enough to get married. And that gives them some small degree of satisfaction that children don't have when they come from a family where my mom and dad didn't even love each other enough to want to stay together and didn't even pretend to care to that level. So it's tempting to go live in a cave. I've had this discussion with myself many times. I would love to, especially if they had a microwave, a coffee maker, and a computer, all the fun things. We can have an exterminator come and get rid of the spiders. But as much as that seems like an attractive option, we cannot do it. And I can prove to you why you cannot do it, because you have a heart in your body that's beating. And you've got lungs that are breathing. You've got functions. God gave you the strength, energy, and effort to get up this morning and come here today. And that means you're supposed to do something. Because if God was done with you, you would be gone by now. So that means I can conclusively prove that everybody is on this planet for a reason. And it is our duty to find out what that is. So, as much as we would like to go back and retreat, we have one choice. And that is to fight, and fight with everything in us every day we can, every moment we can, of every day we can. I know you get tired, but why else are you here? That means you need to run for office. If you don't want to run for office, you have to help somebody run for office. If you don't want to help somebody run for office, you have to give money to somebody who's going to run for office. You can do things politically that will make things better. Now, if you're done with politics, there are other things you can do to make the world a better place. But there's something wrong. Maybe you need to stand outside an abortion clinic and pray. Maybe you need to stand outside of a strip club and make people aware. Be a conscience. You are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Jesus said that in the Sermon on the Mount. I didn't make this stuff up. So if you are, and he did not say, go try to be the salt. Go try to be the light. No. He said you are. You are. You are the salt of the world. You are the light. So, let's talk about when you vote for the lesser of two evils, you're voting for evil. So, it's not worth it to get involved in any campaign where you might help somebody get into office who's going to betray you. How tired do you get of being betrayed and lied to all the time? I brought another fun little illustration. You saw the garden house to explain the Democrat Party. This one's even more fun. This is explaining the Republican Party. It's not too hard. Okay. This is I know some of the Republicans are a few blocks away, so I don't think I have to worry about hurting anybody's feelings today. I got this in the mail. It's an envelope. It's addressed to me, but it's in a plastic bag. And it's ripped up, trashed, abused, tormented. This poor little envelope barely even made it to my house. And what did the post office do? They put stamped on the plastic bag, "We care." I'm like, what? We care? You trash my mail and you think you can cover it by saying we care? They don't even say sorry. I'm going to read this to you because it is very funny. If you cared that bad, why did you stuff it in a plastic bag and not compensate me for the loss? Dear postal customer, okay, how can you care about me if you don't even know my name? For goodness sake, it's written right there, buddy. Dear postal customer, we sincerely regret the damage to your mail during handling by the post office service. We hope this incident did not inconvenience you. We realize that your mail is important and that you have every right to expect it to be delivered in good condition. Although every effort is made to prevent damage to the mail, occasionally this will occur because of the great volume handled and with rapid processing methods, which must be employed to assure the most expeditious distribution possible. We hope you understand. We assure you that we are constantly striving to improve our processing methods in order that even a rare occurrence may be eliminated. Please accept our apologies. Sincerely, they don't even sign it. How can you be sincere? Sorry, I get worked up. But this, my friends, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings if you feel like the Republican Party is not going to do this to you ever again. But do you believe it? Because you know what? They're trashing our country. And you might ask me, why would I blame them? Well, because they have the ability to stop a freight train. They're in Washington, D.C. Thank you, my lovely assistant. You did a magnificent job. What is going on with our country that every year we're watching the national debt get bigger? We're watching our government, the majority of the members of the House claim to be pro-life. So why are they funding Planned Parenthood? I live in the St. Louis area, and our Planned Parenthood, our sweet little Planned Parenthood in St. Louis, ended the year with a $9 million surplus. And folks, that came straight out of your wallet. And the majority of Republicans are not screaming bloody murder. Every time they vote for a continuing resolution, they're voting to trash our values more. And there needs to be somebody who looks at reality and says, don't give me this, I'm sorry. No, I have 7 children. I don't take them not being honest with me. If they did wrong, somebody needs to say they did wrong. So, I'm giving you, though, what we do. We model Christ in our culture. I want to talk to you about Duck Dynasty. Has anybody seen Duck Dynasty? We've got one. Who wants to admit it? I don't watch it either. I don't have time to watch TV. I'm too busy saving the country. But I will tell you this. I own a Christian bookstore, and Duck Dynasty is selling like hotcakes. It's the best book we've got, the best duck call we've got, the best Excel we've got, notepads and picture frames and all kinds of really cool Duck Dynasty stuff. Why is Duck Dynasty taking our culture by storm? Why is it dominating the Christian retail marketplace right now? Why are people pretty much, even though you may not have said you watched Duck Dynasty, probably everyone in the room knows what it is. Now, the producers came to them and said, we want to do a reality show about a functional family. How novel is that? Sadly, in America, we're at a point where taking a picture of a functional family is new and different for many people to have a chance to observe what does a functional family look like. Okay, how many football fans do we have in the audience? Raise your hand. The same people who watch Duck Dynasty watch football. When a football team takes the field, nobody knows who's going to win. You can't predict that. You can look at stats. You can see who's supposed to win. We live near St. Louis, so the Rams is our team. But no matter how good of a season they're having, that doesn't mean they're going to win the next game. And no matter how awful a season they're having, that does not mean there's no chance they'll ever win a football game. They might win. You don't know. We don't know how the story of America is going to end. We are taking the field. We're getting on our uniforms. We're all playing different positions. Not everybody can be a quarterback, a halfback, a fullback. I don't know. For those non-football people, I tried playing volleyball once with somebody who was overly aggressive. And I learned that we all have to have our different positions. And that's good. Everybody has a different job to do. And it is not my duty to tell you what your job is. But it is my duty to say, whatever you do it well, do it with all your might, do it with all the enthusiasm, with all the gusto and everything in you until the day God takes you out of here. And that's how we honor God. And that's how we are asking you to write the end of the story. So I'm going to close with a poem. In case you haven't heard this one before. How many of you know who John Wesley is? Yeah, most of you. This is his quote. It's really good. He says, do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, in all the times you can, and to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. And now for those who want a light poem, how many of you have heard Footprints in the Sand? This is not Footprints in the Sand. One night I had a wondrous dream. One set of footprints there was seen, the footprints of my precious Lord, but mine were not along the shore. But then some stranger prints appeared, and I asked the Lord, what have we here? These prints are large and round and neat, but Lord, these are too big for feet. My child, he said in somber tones, for miles I carried you alone. I challenged you to walk in faith, but you refused and made me wait. You disobeyed, you would not grow. The walk of faith you would not know. So I got tired, I got fed up, and there I dropped you on your butt. Because in life, there comes a time when one must fight and one must climb, when one must rise and take a stand or leave their butt prints in the sand. So go out there and make a difference. And you are going to make it. Every one of you, I know that the reason you came to my class today is because you are going to make a difference. God bless you.